Of all the famous Roman emperors, you may have never come across Justinian the Great or Justinian I, the Byzantine emperor who is labeled great by Byzantine historians due to his many notable successes. Although he wasn't entirely beloved by his people, Justinian managed to restore a significant amount of the former Roman Empire's glory. Keep watching as we explore the life and rule of Emperor Justinian. The Byzantine Empire was founded in 330 CE during the gradual decline of the Roman Empire. It was also called the Eastern Roman Empire, as the Roman Empire was split in half to manage it better. The western half slowly collapsed and eventually fell in 476 CE. Although the Eastern Roman Empire was known as the Roman Empire after the fall of Rome, modern scholars refer to it as the Byzantine Empire to distinguish it. Despite threats from the Persian Empire, the Byzantine Empire continued to thrive for nearly 1,000 years after the collapse of the Roman Empire. Justinian was born Petrus Sabatius in 482 CE. Although he was from an Illyrian peasant family, his road to power was paved by his uncle, Justin. Justin had left behind his life as a swineherd and traveled to Constantinople, where he enlisted in the palace guard and rose through the ranks, eventually becoming commander of the palace guard under Emperor Anastasius I. Enjoying this prestigious position, Justin sent for his nephew, who changed his name from Petrus to Justinian in his uncle's honor. Justinian received a top education in Constantinople, although his mastery of Greek was never complete. It was reported that his accent was particularly bad. When Emperor Anastasius died in 518 CE, Justin succeeded him, despite being in his late 60s at the time. Elderly and childless, Justin accepted the guidance of his well-educated nephew and legally adopted him. Somewhat of a schism had formed between the Eastern and Western Roman Empire under the reign of Anastasius. Anastasius began promoting the Monophysite belief that Jesus' humanity was absorbed into his divinity, meaning Christ had only one divine nature. This idea was viewed as heretical by the majority of the Christian community and caused unrest and periodic rebellions throughout his reign. During the reign of Justin, Justinian encouraged his uncle to reverse the religious policies of Anastasius. When Justin I died in 527 CE, Justinian, who had essentially been ruling by his side, succeeded him as sole emperor. When Justinian came to power, the Persians were encroaching on Byzantine territories, having previously captured the cities of Theodosiopolis, Amida, and Nisibis. The Byzantine army was currently engaged with the Persian forces of King Kavad on the Euphrates River. The Persians enjoyed some success, and after the death of Kavad, his successor, Khosrow I, negotiated with Justinian and signed the Treaty of Eternal Peace, which was ratified in 532. The Byzantines ceded no territories and had their sovereignty over Lazica, modern-day Colchis, formerly recognized by the Persians. Khosrow would not come to the defense of territories in the Caucasus. However, the Byzantines had to pay 11,000 pounds of gold. The same year that Justinian established peace with the Persians, his life was threatened in the Nika riots in Constantinople. After growing political and social tensions in the Byzantine capital were downplayed by Justinian, a full-scale riot broke out. Rioters set fires and ravaged the city, with the principal instigators being two factions, the Blues and the Greens. Justinian's advisors told him to flee the city, but the emperor decided to go with the advice of his remarkable wife instead. Interestingly, Theodora, who had been named Empress Augusta when Justinian took the throne, was the daughter of a bear keeper who worked at the Hippodrome, a circus in Constantinople. A former actress and wool spinner, she had captivated Justinian with her beauty and intelligence, but it was illegal at the time for actresses to marry senior-ranking men. Justinian influenced Justin I to pass special legislation legalizing those sorts of marriages and married Theodora in 525. During the Nika riots, the conflicting political factions united in their rebellion against the government and attempted to set up a rival emperor. Theodora understood that fleeing the city would mean the united factions of the Blues and Greens would be able to install their own emperor in Justinian's absence. She, therefore, advised her husband to stay and defend his position. Justinian sent his army to round up the rioters and herd them into the Hippodrome, where they were mercilessly slaughtered. This act caused enormous civilian casualties, but also helped Justinian eliminate his political rivals under the guise of saving the city. Throughout Justinian's reign, Theodora remained a loyal and trusted advisor, making her one of the most powerful women in Byzantine history. She championed women's rights, passing laws to prevent the trafficking of young girls and altering others to give women better benefits in the case of divorce. Her considerable influence on legislation is evidenced in the fact that after her death in 548, Justinian passed very few significant laws. With his political rivals neutralized and peace established in the east, Justinian turned his attention to the west, hoping to reconquer the fallen part of the empire. He continued his former Christian orthodoxy, re-establishing communication between the Roman and the Eastern churches, except Egypt, which remained a stronghold of monophysitism. Justinian was distinctly Romanized, with Latin as his first language and an extensive education in Roman history and antiquities. In Byzantium, Justinian enforced many civil laws and rulings that had been popular in the Roman Empire since the rule of Hadrian. He also began to reconstruct buildings that had been destroyed by the Nika riots, including building a new church, the Church of Holy Wisdom, or Hagia Sophia, over the remains of an older church that had been damaged. This building has come to be recognized as one of the world's greatest monuments and is currently used as a grand mosque, serving as a major cultural and historical site. After the fall of Rome, much of Italy had been under the rule of the Germanic Arians. One ruler, an Ostrogoth king named Theodoric, officially recognized the authority of the Byzantine Emperor, although he still reigned as an independent sovereign. Theodoric died in 526, leaving his infant grandson as his heir. The young age of Theodoric's heir led to substantial power struggles, as at the time there were significant rivalries between the ranks of the Ostrogoths, many of whom were against Byzantine rule, the Arian Goths, and the Catholic Italians. The issues of succession that had plagued Italy during the 520s gave Justinian an excuse to begin sending in expeditions in the 530s. Justinian took full advantage of the situation and sent a fleet headed by his best and most trusted general, Belisarius, to attack Sicily and reconquer lost western territories. He also sent an embassy to Gaul to try to enlist the support of the Franks. Despite some early success in negotiations with the Goths, Justinian's path into the Italian peninsula was soon blocked and his progress slowed. Although Justinian was ultimately able to re-establish imperial rule in Italy, his taxes and increased military presence made his rule extremely unpopular. Initially, Justinian controlled most of the Italian peninsula, including Rome. However, subsequent struggles meant that over time, the Byzantine rule in Italy had been reduced to fragmented and isolated territories, including Ravenna, Otranto, and Ancona. Justinian was not just focused on domination in Italy. He was also determined to regain Western Christian provinces that were now under the rule of the Arians, who routinely persecuted Catholics. He used this persecution as a pretext to invade the Vandal kingdom in North Africa, defeating the Vandal king, Gelimer, in 534, ending Catholic persecution and restoring the region to Byzantine control. Justinian used significant military force to reacquire the numerous territories of the former Roman Empire in North Africa. To fund this and future campaigns, Justinian promoted and encouraged his subjects to pay their taxes. Much of Justinian's reforms at this time were centered around sustaining his army and continuing campaigns in the West. These policies were seen as particularly harsh by the general populace and led to much resentment among his people despite his military successes being praised by future historians. In 540, Justinian was fully occupied with his invasion of Italy, and the Persian Emperor Khosrow took this opportunity to once again take up arms against the Byzantine Empire, moving into Mesopotamia, Byzantine Armenia, and northern Syria, looting key cities in the area. Now fighting a war on two fronts, Justinian moved Belisarius back to his eastern front to launch counteroffensives before recalling him to Italy in 542. The battle with the Persians continued despite a small interlude between 545 and 551. Finally, a 50-year truce was established around 561, after which Byzantium agreed to pay an annual tribute to the Persians who renounced any claim to Lazica, a small Christian kingdom that acted as a barrier against attacks from northern invaders. Despite the war, Justinian was able to maintain most of his eastern provinces, and his actions are generally seen as successful by modern historians. Justinian isn't only known for his external military successes, but also for his internal policies, which many historians now cite as his most significant achievements. He encouraged legal studies, actively tried to root out corruption, and appears to have been genuinely concerned with allowing his subjects to have easy access to justice. Justinian also tackled the issue of suffragia, which involved the sale of provincial governorships. As the new governors usually extorted the cost of their governorship from their provincial populace, Justinian banned the practice in 535. He drew up instructions for provincial governors and strengthened the position of the defensores civitatis, an official whose duty was to protect the city. In terms of religious reform, for the majority of his reign, Justinian was a staunch Catholic, forbidding pagans, heretics, and Samaritans from teaching, and expelling non-Christian teachers from the academy in Athens. Although Justinian tried to reconcile orthodox teachings with monophysitism, that Jesus only had one divine nature, of which his wife Theodora was a strong champion, he also did not want to alienate Rome in the West. As he got older, Justinian occupied himself with theological matters, withdrawing slightly from public affairs and even issuing an unpopular edict in 564 that stated the human body of Christ was incorruptible. The statement was seen as heretical by many ecclesiastics, but as the emperor died just 1 year later, the matter was dropped. Although his reign saw many objections at the time, Justinian I's rule is regarded as successful. His achievements came mainly through his ambitious and transformative laws, his military conquests, and his architectural achievements. Not only did he expand the Byzantine Empire, but he also invested heavily in internal infrastructure, building various roads, bridges, and fortifications. He improved communication and defense across the empire, which stimulated and enhanced trade. By increasing trade, weeding out corruption, and regulating the currency, Justinian stabilized the economy, allowing for the collection of taxes, which aided the empire's military efforts. Although many of Justinian's military conquests were eventually lost, his reign is seen as one of revival and renaissance for the Roman Empire. Despite his military successes being relatively short-lived, his ambition, legal reforms, and architectural contributions left a lasting legacy that many argue influenced the development of Western civilization. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Emperor Justinian, check out our book, Justinian I, A Captivating Guide to Justinian the Great and How This Emperor Ruled the Roman Empire. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.